Have you ever had one of those killer ideas for a piece of software, but then you immediately thought, well, I can't code, so it's impossible? What if I told you that you don't need to write a single line of code to build, launch, and sell your very own software? Okay, let's dive into this and unpack how you can turn that brilliant idea into a real, profitable product. And this quote right here, this really gets to the heart of it. It's the core promise. It taps into that dream so many of us have of creating something digital, but it smashes the biggest roadblock we think is in our way, that you have to be some kind of tech genius. Today, we're going to see how to make this a reality. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why software is such a big deal. Then, we'll explore the 4 main ways a non-programmer can actually create it. We'll look at outsourcing versus these DIY builders, and then, the best part, how to turn your new creation into actual money. So, first things first, why even bother with software? I mean, what makes it so special, so lucrative compared to something like an ebook or an online course? Well, the answer comes down to one really powerful idea. It's all about something called perceived value. Think about it. Because most people have absolutely no clue how to make a program, they automatically see it as this incredibly complex and valuable thing. And that perception, that lets you charge a much higher price. See, they're not just buying information, they're buying a tool that solves a real problem or saves them time. And people will always pay more for that. But here's the kicker. The very thing that creates that high value, the complexity of coding, is pretty much a myth for what we're trying to do. You, as a non-coder, can absolutely get in on this. Let's find out exactly how. Okay, so how do you actually bridge that gap from just an idea to a finished product? Well, you're not stuck with just one option. It turns out there are 4 distinct paths you can take to bring your software to life. No coding required. As you can see, there are a few ways to tackle this. You can pay someone to build it, use a special tool to do it yourself, license a product that's already made, or, yeah, you could learn to code. Now, all of these are valid, but for the best mix of speed, cost, and control, our source material really says to focus on the first 2, either outsourcing it or using a software builder. So let's dig into that first major path, outsourcing. This is where you take your idea and your budget to a freelance programmer who literally turns your vision into a reality. But if you're going to do this, you have to be super, super specific. The absolute key here is clarity. When you post your project on a freelance site, you have to nail these 5 points. Be crystal clear about your budget, your deadline, and exactly what the software needs to do. Don't forget the operating system, and this one is huge. Make sure your contract says you own 100% of the final code. Trust me, that will save you so many headaches down the road. You know, outsourcing is a bit of a trade-off. On the one hand, you get a real expert building your project, and you can often get it done for less than you think. But on the other hand, you might have to manage the whole process pretty closely, and there's always a risk of delays or getting a product that's, well, not quite right. It's a powerful option for sure, but you've got to stay on top of it. All right, now for the second major option, and this is the one our source actually calls the author's choice. This is the path that puts the power directly in your hands, using special tools designed for non-programmers to build everything yourself. Now, there are a few of these software builders out there, but these 3 give you a really good sense of the options. You've got tools like Myos, which is great if you're on a tight budget. Then there's Tiger Software Builder, which is more powerful, but you got to be ready for a bit of a learning curve. And then you have the top-rated one. And here's the main takeaway on these tools. Software Product Magic gets a 9 out of 10 because it's built from the ground up to be packed with features, but also incredibly easy for a complete beginner to just pick up and use. The point is, tools like this have made creating software more accessible than it has ever been before. It's a total game changer. Okay, so you did it. You either hired a coder or used a builder, and now you have a finished piece of software. That's fantastic. But that's only half the journey. Now we got to figure out, how do you actually make money from this thing? You've actually got more options than you might realize. Direct sales is the obvious one, of course. But you can also sell resell rights, which lets other people sell your product for you. You could even offer private label rights, where someone pays you a higher fee to rebrand the software as their own. Or, get this, you could give the software away for free to build a massive email list. It's an incredibly powerful strategy. And of course, you have to get the word out. One of the best ways to do this is to create a free, limited demo version. You can then submit this demo to hundreds of download websites online, which gives tons of potential customers a little taste of what your product does. This builds buzz like crazy and drives people back to your website where they can buy the full version. So really, the big takeaway here is this: that gap between having a software idea and launching a real profitable product, it has never been smaller. Whether you pay someone to build it or you do it yourself with one of these user-friendly tools, the path is clear, and it definitely doesn't require years of learning to code. So, we've covered the roadmap, we've looked at the tools, and we've walked through the strategies. The only thing left is the idea. So I'll just leave you with this one question. What's a small, nagging problem that you could solve with a simple piece of software? Because the answer to that question might just be your first product.